Did you know that soul song in Sims language means hello? You're listening to the Xbox Hub Podcast, the official podcast of the TheXboxHub.com. For the latest Xbox news, reviews, videos, and opinions, make sure you visit the TheXboxHub.com. But for now, settle down, get comfy, and open your ears for some podcast delights.
Hello, welcome to the Xbox Hub Official Podcast, episode 209. My name's Gareth Brady, and I'm going to be your host, and on my virtual left is Mr. Richard Dobson. How you doing, Richard?
Hello. It's been a while, or maybe not so long, but yeah, I'm glad to be back on the podcast.
Yeah, we're sorry for the delay. Just a heads up, I started the podcast and I didn't record, so we've done the intros already, but luckily we realised 5 minutes in. And on my virtual right is Mr. Darren Edwards. How you doing, Darren?
Yes, hello. I'm very well, thank you. Nice to be back after a few weeks off the air.
It could have been a disaster, couldn't it? Could have been an hour of us recording into the void. Apologies, we haven't been there for a while yet. It was probably my fault. We're do a normal podcast this week, and then but for next time, and hopefully before the end of the month, we're going to do a Halloween special. We're going to put on our spooky outfits, and we're going to go through our favourite horror games, and maybe if you want to as well, contribute. What's your favourite horror games? We can talk about some of that. Maybe there might be a Halloween quiz, he says, looking at Richard. Ooh. Maybe, we don't know. We don't know yet. We're going to start this week with news, and one of the first things I want to kind of chat about is the wranglings with Ubisoft. I think we should have just a brief discussion about that. And there's 3 parts to this. The first part being something that has happened recently. There's been allegations, I must say it's allegations, Ubisoft haven't responded to this, it's my review, but allegations of a lawsuit going to Ubisoft about them sharing data to Meta from their subscription service and use Ubisoft Plus. So that's the kind of news story that's coming out today, but there's some allegations about that. It's not been a great time for Ubisoft recently. So we'll wait to see more about that and see if this lawsuit comes to fruition or if it moves any further. The second part is that Ubisoft themselves, I think it's Treyant who owns the company. Anyway, so they're about to go private. I think they're talking about going private. So I think it's like a normal company which shares to the public, but I think they're going to make it a private because of some of the problems with Star Wars Outlaws, not selling as much as they can, and a few other projects as well that's been cancelled. And of course they've moved, which is the third part, as I said before, Assassin's Creed, like a dagger in my heart. Assassin's Creed dagger in my heart. Assassin's Creed Shadows being delayed now to February from November, which of course maybe affects the financials. I'm not a business person, I don't know. Darren, I'm going to talk to you first about Ubisoft. And what's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because I wasn't aware of the most recent news that you've just went through at the beginning there, but they've probably been on a bit of uncertain ground for a while. I mean, back in showcase season in June, we talked about the Ubisoft showcase, and they didn't deliver a lot of what we wanted. It was almost like a copy and paste job of years gone by, I think we kind of said, and that might or might not be a part of the problem. But it's interesting because I actually quite like the look of Star Wars Outlaws through kind of the previews and stuff we did, although I haven't been and played it, which is probably part of the problem. So I feel like maybe it's had a bit of a rough ride. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know with Ubisoft. They kind of never do what you expect them to do. So if there's other stuff going on in the background as well, then that could potentially explain why they've been a bit all over the place in my view, like with Skull and Bones, for example. Should they have just cut their losses and run at some point, or are they going to continue to support that with new content like they've said they will? I don't know. Feels a bit odd to me. So I'm not surprised, but I would hate to see them kind of fold completely, which is what some people are saying is going to happen, because it's going to be a loss for the gaming world, for franchises such as Assassin's Creed, which have a huge following. So interesting, because they're a big player as well. So
Richard, what's your? I mean, you played Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah.
You've played as well, and I reviewed it. It wasn't. It's not as bad at all as people are making out.
No,
I've had a good time with it.
It's very much the Ubisoft formula of open world, millions of markers on a map, but being able to walk around these Star Wars worlds, I think, is where a lot of people got the most enjoyment from it. As an open world, it's okay. It's a bit too heavy on the stealth that I think perhaps put a lot of people off. But the realization of these worlds is excellent, and the attention to detail that went into these areas was very, very good. But I also think talking to other people that perhaps were interested in Star Wars Outlaws were like, it's a Ubisoft game. It's going to be on sale in a few weeks for half price. And I think their business model is perhaps the thing that needs a tweak the most. They're outside of perhaps maybe Rockstar. They seem to be like one of the last few developers that are intent on these open world AAA titles and I agree, they have large teams, so they're continually churning out these open world games, but you get a bit of investment when one releases, and then where else is the money really coming from in between the releases? And we spoke about this plenty of times before, like the AAA model is where it seems to be failing now. You're spending millions and millions of dollars on these games, and they'll sell enough to cover the costs at the beginning, but then everything just has this slow downturn after that. And I think studios are starting to look at other alternatives. RGG Studios from Like a Dragon, they've managed to buck the trend. So what they're doing is they've released a big game this year. They're reusing a lot of those assets and bringing out another game in a few months, just like 12 months after their last game. And I think that's perhaps where things need to go. I think the AAA plan just needs to be reworked. And I think Ubisoft are perhaps one of those that are a bit slower to change than perhaps some of the others, and that's why they're the ones that seem to be struggling at the moment.
Yeah, that's really insightful, because I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think maybe they will look at that, and I think they probably, I mean, they made a statement before, didn't they, about we're just going to concentrate on our single player games from now on. I think that was one of the things, the open world single players, which they felt they were the best at. I think if Ubisoft does get into trouble, maybe I think the probably Assassin's Creed franchise will stay in some form, or if someone else has it, I think that's their money thing. That's their cash cow, really, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, and then they also said, was it maybe 12, 18 months ago? Obviously, Assassin's Creed is still going to keep going, but things like Watch Dogs is on hiatus. The Division, I think the Division 3 is being worked on, but it's perhaps some time away still, because they had 2 titles planned for that. One of them got cancelled, and I think the other one, did it ever release on mobile? I'm not even sure if it did. So yeah, obviously Assassin's Creed's their big cash cow, and I can't see that going anywhere. But maybe this has been a long time coming with these sort of announcements. But I think the bit of diversification is what's needed, really.
I think we're finding it in film as well, which is a really interesting thing. I was chatting to a friend today about, we were talking about the new Joker film, Joker 2 with the Joaquin Phoenix thing, and I think it's had a massive kind of split. Critically, it's been sort of panned, but I think it's one of those films that people love or hate. But the big thing about it is it's not done very well at the box office, and they spent £200 million on that film. And I think it's about those production costs and stuff is so high now, and that's a kind of like it's an indie film still, really, at its heart, with massive stars, but the production cost for making a game like Star Wars Outlaws is, you got to make so much back. It's such a gamble, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think I think that's that's where some of these companies are struggling. With on top of that, exactly what Richard said about I might wait till it goes in a sale or it'll be on Game Pass. I know Ubisoft have got their own Ubisoft Plus thing, but there's that feeling sometimes with games as well.
Definitely.
Do you think it's a good move that so Assassin's Creed's moved to February, and a few games have moved to February to get away from the autumn rush like Avowed, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Everything's going to February now.
Yeah, I think I remember we talked about this before, where February has become like another kind of roadblock congestion. They might have to move out of February to avoid everything moving to February. I find it interesting how they're all pitching for the same kind of time window. I don't know if there's any sort of psychology behind that or not. But
I think there's probably just a financial thing of getting it out in the financial year, whenever that finishes, March probably, maybe. Maybe that's a thing, so they've got to try to do it then. But I mean,
Sorry, Gareth. I think they all want it out there before GTA 6 comes and takes over the world.
Well, there's rumours that might be delayed, so who knows? Who knows? It's a gamble, isn't it?
That's going to be delayed. I think that's going to be really delayed for some reason. Good. Okay. Let's leave Ubisoft to the world in a minute and see what happens. We'll see what happens. It would be a shame because I think they make great. There's some really great games they make. Should we talk about something more positive? Should we talk about Alien Isolation sequel? Is coming. That was a shock. Who's a big Alien Isolation? Darren, are you a big Alien Isolation fan?
I am. I'm an Alien fan in general, so I think this wasn't. I mean, it was always kind of wanted by the community, but I don't think we expected it. And they had their 10th anniversary celebration recently as well. And we went to see Romulus a few months ago, and it was really good. It was a really good way of bringing all elements, some popular, some not so popular, of the universe together. And I think that film did so well, maybe they thought this is a good sign, or this is the time now to get the green light for it. So I think I'll just be interested to see what they do with it, because it's a game that doesn't necessarily need a sequel. I just happily play it again. They don't have to do anything amazing to change it. So if they've got ideas and stuff, I'm really excited to see what they do with it. Because like you just talking about Joker, I loved the first one, but I'd never thought I'd see a sequel. I didn't think it necessarily needed one. So I hope that they've got some really good ideas to make it worthy of a sequel, which I'm sure they do, because there's some real big talent behind it, and they've got Amanda Ripley, I think it is, who was Ellen Ripley's daughter in it. So who knows where they could go with it, but I think it's great. I must say though, that famous IGN review came up again. They gave it 5.9, didn't they? Mediocre when it first came out, and it's kind of seen as one of the great misjudgments of gaming reviews. So that was very funny. I think the writer, is it Ryan McCaffrey, I think he's called, he's kind of defended it, which is fair enough because it's opinion. Yeah. But I don't think he's getting an easy time for it in the online world. So yeah, a really good thing in my book, but I think it's a long way out because it's just early development, isn't it? They've said.
Yeah, I think the beauty of that game, of course, is being alone on that ship, isn't it? And with one alien chasing you around the whole place. That was the fantastic, but also the story and about where you were going and the other events that you meet along the way. But it's an amazing kind of game.
It is.
Are you a fan of that, Rich? Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say that the alien AI was genuinely terrifying. Like that was advanced as well in the game, which made it really work.
Yeah. Richard, are you a big fan of it?
I haven't played it. Shamefully, it's a big omission. I did play the beginning bit, and I never got as far as seeing the actual xenomorph itself. And for some reason, I've just never gone back to it. But yeah, to echo what Darren said there, I think the Alien franchise has had a good year. The trailer for the TV show coming out early next year looks good. Obviously, Alien Romulus was very good. So yeah, strike while the iron's hot. But as an aside to that, I know that the upcoming A Quiet Place game is doing something similar to Alien Isolation. So if you wear a headset with a microphone in, they'll have the noise they'll respond to the noise if you make a noise with a headset on. So if you want a stopgap between Alien Isolation games, that might be something.
You've got to play it, Richard. Play it. I think it's on Game Pass, or it used to be on Game Pass.
I have it on disc, and I may even.
Word.
I don't even know why I've not.
Play it. It's great. It's a long game as well. I remember it being quite long.
Yeah, it is.
Let's talk about Halo, because I don't know much about this. But is it? What's this? Are they going into Unreal Engine 5? What's happening with Halo?
Yeah, so I think me and Richard are both Halo fans from memory, but I've waxed lyrical about Halo for the last few years. It's been kind of in a state of limbo, really. Infinite was kind of a soft reboot with more open worlds, which I really like the campaign. I just didn't think the story or the narrative was particularly strong. It didn't really advance the series. After Halo 5 was a bit of a disaster in that department. But yeah, they've released some images. I think it's a 3-4 second clip of Master Chief himself. And they're going to develop projects in Unreal Engine 5 going forward. And they've rebranded 343 to Halo Studios. So I think that's a signal of them really backing the IP and investing in it. And hopefully a realization that they've let it dwindle a bit too long. It's early days. I wasn't a massive fan of the model of Chief in that kind of 3 or 4 second clip. But, you know, there's multiple projects in development. It's got a long way to go. So it's really exciting that they use an Unreal Engine 5. I just hope they go back to what makes Halo so good. And this extra kind of focus, and whether it's people, whether it's money, does what it needs to do, because it needs a reboot, I think.
Yeah, Richard, are you? What would you like to see in a new Halo game?
I quite enjoyed Infinite. It was very much like the older Halo games, and the gunplay is perhaps the best it's been in the series. But I think it's good news that they've said this, that the rebranding to Halo Studios to give that commitment, but they've also said that anything they've finished bringing out new content for Halo Infinite. So I think any new Halo game is going to be quite a ways away, which isn't what the series really needs at the moment. I think it went through a period of like annual releases, and there was various different ways of exploring that universe with Halo Wars, and I can't remember the name of the top-down shooter off the top of my head either, or the isometric one.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Oh, Halo Wars?
No. It was almost like a twin-stick shooter one, wasn't it?
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, I do know what you mean. Yeah, I remember. Did I review it? I didn't review it, did I? I've played every Halo game, and I'm not as big a fan as you two, but I really enjoy them. The problem is that Halo Infinite I really enjoyed, but I can't remember anything about it. If you said to me, what was it about? I kind of got flashbacks of being in corridors shooting things, but I don't know what it was about. I did at the time, but yeah, I've got no memory of it. So hopefully, the new Dawn, it'd be great to see another Halo appear in the next few years.
It would. Sorry, just one last bit though. Dobbo's absolutely right. Like, it needs. They've been promising single player DLC for Infinite. It's such a shame they can't finish with that and then have a bit of a break. Because the multiplayer, I agree with the gunplay. I've spent so many hours on Halo Infinite multiplayer, and it's really, really good, like brilliant. Mm-hmm. And they've brought back old Halo 3 maps and all sorts. Like, they've done such good work in the multiplayer space. But considering it started out as a single player game, like, I can think about Halo 1 and 3 and that moments that really stand out, almost like you've watched a film moments. But what you've just said there, Gareth, was my big problem with Halo Infinite. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 because it was a bit samey. There was no standout moments for me, so I think it needs to go back to that blockbuster kind of feel as a single player.
Yeah. Let's just talk about 2 remakes that briefly that have come out this week with equal thing. Silent Hill 2 remakes on the PlayStation. What's happened with the pre-orders, Richard? What did you tell me?
We spoke about this earlier, but Game, I've got a massive backlog basically of pre-orders, and I think they're about 2 months behind on certain pre-orders that have just not gone through. But the pre-orders for Silent Hill 2 have now started shipping, but people that ordered the Steelbook edition aren't getting the Steelbook edition, they're getting the regular edition, and it's just a mess for what was probably for all of us growing up was the one place that we all used to go and get games at some point.
I think I told you, everyone here, but I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast yet. I went into game to get Astrobot, the one near me, right, that I've been going to for ages. And I went into the game shop and the lights were dimmed. So it was like they couldn't afford the lighting. And there was one person sort of like in the back by the till. And I went, "Have you got Astrobot?" And the guy looked at me and just went, "We haven't had the delivery from our warehouse in 2 months."
Yeah.
And
I had the same thing with Star Wars Outlaws as well.
It's just, that's not good, is it? It's not good for them. It feels like, yeah, it's a sad thing. Yeah. There we go. And of course, the other remake on PlayStation again, which was Until Dawn. The remake, I don't think anyone was crying out for. has released because it's a good game. I enjoyed it till Dawn, loved it, but
me too.
It looked pretty good then. It looked great then, didn't it? I can't imagine. But this hasn't had great reviews. There's been all sorts of problems, hasn't there? The frame rate's been terrible. The people who've read review codes have talked about it crashing constantly. It's not been good, is it?
No. Yeah, well, we're all fans of Until Dawn then. And it's the game that got me into Supermassive Games, and everything they've done since has been really good. I've watched a stream of the new Until Dawn, and even such things as the original soundtrack's been completely changed. There's bits in it where, I don't know if you can remember the snowball fight that two of them have, and there's a chance to throw a snowball at a bird. That's now got this like edgy new version of I think it's a LaRue song, and you know, like the TV shows and all the ones that cater to the younger people have these like really slowed down tempo versions of like classic pop songs that they all seem to do to build up tension. It seems to be doing that, and it's kind of losing the charm of it a little bit. And yeah, as you said, no one wanted this remake anyways. I know it was 2015, I think the first one came out, but that was still only last generation. It's not needed, and the changes haven't gone down well at all anyway.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, isn't it? Remaking something, and also, you know, it did look great. It looked great. It still does. You can pick up the game and have a great experience of that for like probably £4 or something.
Yeah,
the original.
And I think the original's playable at 60 frames per second, but the new one's 30 frames only.
Wow.
Well, you need to get yourself a PS5 Pro, and then that'll solve that problem. Apparently, only $800.
Pre-orders on Amazon. It's there now. Wow.
Oh, grief! I just to add quickly. Sorry, I loved the original because you forget it had people like Rami Malek in and Hayden Panettiere from Heroes and stuff. So I was surprised when it's 9 years ago. I thought, oh yeah, but still, it doesn't feel like 9 years ago. So I agree. I don't understand the reason why they're remaking that. I really don't get it.
No, it's madness. Let's talk about games we've been playing ourselves. There's going to be 2 each this week. Who wants to start? Let's have Darren. You start.
I'll start with the most recent one. So my review went live a couple of the days before you hear this podcast. It's called Wild Bastards. So we've talked about it on the podcast before in our much looked forward to what's coming up next month feature, and I've done a Q&A with the head of Blue Manchu Studios, John Shea. So he co-founded Irrational Games, so there's some real good pedigree behind this game. And it's a spiritual successor to a game called Void Bastards, which was a bit of a survival escape a planet game, but this is a bit different. So it's a procedurally generated roguelike FPS, which aren't the most two obvious genres to smash together, but it works really well. So essentially, there's a crew of 13 of these wild bastards. They're like outlaws, like interspace outlaws. 11 have been killed, 2 are left, and they're trying to get to the homestead, which is like escaping from this life. But they decide to resurrect them as they go. And in each galaxy, you find them, but you've got to fight your way through. So part of it plays off on like a little mini map, and you can choose which planet to visit until you get to the end one. And then when you go down to a planet, you enter like the FPS part of the game, and you have to take out a certain number of enemies to win the showdown, and then you can continue. And on the planet, there's all sorts of different modifiers. So there's roadblocks, there's roaming mobs of enemies. You can get buffs for your characters as well, or you can weaken the outposts. There's loads and loads to do. It's really, really good. And then your characters themselves, where the roguelike bit comes in, you can get different aces and power-ups for them and level them up. And then when you exit the galaxy, that will get stripped away, apart from some core aces which carry over for progression. So it's really good. I gave it a 4.5 because although there's a lot of showdowns, actually there's enough in there to make them all seem different. So each of the characters themselves are really well voiced, interact with each other differently depending on who you choose to form your kind of posse as you beam down to the planets. And they're all really individual. Like this Billy the Squid is one, for example, who dual wields pistols. There's a fella called Smokey who is just like a fireball personified, but can throw fire from his hands. It's just brilliant, and it looks brilliant. It's kind of like real kind of old school neon cell shaded style. So if you're looking for something a bit different, I very much recommend it. I really enjoyed it.
Wild Bastards. Okay. I don't think I can play that game, but it sounds very good. Richard, what's your first one?
I'm going to mention the game I've been waxing lyrical about in the Discord all week. Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, which is free on PlayStation this month, and I missed the boat with it completely when it first came out. But apparently it's already a pretty big deal. So I went and I watched the trailer for it before downloading it, and it's all very cute. These 4 anime style girls are there. You're in a high school visual novel style of thing, and then it popped up on the trailer, experience the #1 psychological horror game, and I was like, how can it be like this? After playing it now and getting one of the endings, it absolutely is a psychological horror game. It looks like a dating simulator visual novel. It's actually an existential psychological horror game. It's unlike anything I've ever played before, and it's difficult to sort of explain what it's really about without going too deep into it and then spoiling it for you, because it's definitely one of those games where the less you know, the better. But you play as a character who is coerced by a friend to join the literature club, and then this literature club, there's 4 girls, and you get chatting to them all and everything, and at the end of each day you can choose from different keywords, and it will supposedly write a poem, and then in the next day the literature club, you'll show this poem, and it will sort of change your relationships with these girls, and then you find out that the closer you start getting to them, you unlock like special scenarios with them, and it changes your relationship with them. But then things start to go a little bit wrong, and that's where I don't want to spoil it anymore. But there's a lot of disturbing stuff that happens, and it's quite some of the discussions are really mature, and if you're easily disturbed by certain topics, then yeah, I would avoid it, because it really does go into it head on. But if you're all right with things like that, then it's a 3-4 hour story, and I would just really recommend it. It's absolutely, since I finished it, when was it? Probably Tuesday. I've not stopped thinking about it. just the ending and how it does everything for a visual novel is unlike anything I've ever played before, and it's only something that can be done in the medium of video games. It just can't work anywhere else. It's absolutely brilliant.
Good recommendation. I'm going to play it. So it's free on PlayStation Plus at the moment, or the monthly games, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great because I do keep seeing lots of videos of people like doing little clips, and they go, "Oh, this is me playing this game. Oh, it's going to be really nice and sweet," and then seeing them shock and then going, "There was a warning. They gave me a warning."
Yeah. Yeah, the warning's one thing, but when you see it firsthand, you're like, whoa. It's really creepy after that. And I think it's come out at the right time because it's spooky season, and yeah, it completely subverts everything. It's brilliant.
Great. Good. Thank you, Richard. I'm going to briefly speak about it. Came out a while ago, but we haven't done a podcast for a while. Dead Rising remaster that I reviewed. How did I end up reviewing this?
I thought Paul would have got it.
I know. So it's Dead Rising from 2006, and it's a remaster, and they've done a really good job. It looks great. The character animations look brilliant. It's the mall. They've made a lot of the combat a lot better. You know when your weapons are going to break now. So it's the kind of little meters on there. The people that you rescue are a bit more, a bit less stupid. They will follow you. You can hold a hand and sort of pull them along, and they seem a bit more responsive as well with things. There's loads of kind of graphical and sound updates, if I remember rightly. So it does, and the menus and the way it's presented looks great. The problem I had with the first game was it's on a timer. So the whole game you've got to do in 72 hours, or maybe it's a bit more. You have to do, that's what you've got. So you're always on it's always on this kind of time sensitive thing. I always hated that in the first game. Didn't get on with it. It's still there. They got rid of it in their later series by number 2 or 3, maybe 3. They got rid of it completely, but it's still there. Of course, they wanted to keep it the same. I think if they got rid of that, it would have been an uproar. But they've got it there, so that is still my problem. But you can do things like, beforehand, you might have hours to spend. If you wanted to just mainline the story, you can fast forward time as well. So if you had to do something by 3 o'clock the next day, beforehand you had to just go around and kill everything, zombies and stuff. But you can fast forward times to get to that main mission. I mean, the only problem is some of the AI for the boss battles feel very 2006 still. The way they move, the way they kind of like... You can find ways of cheating. That's what I'm saying, because you can just look at the AI. It's not as... And sometimes it does get tricky. It does get really tricky later on. You're sort of getting one-shotted by people and you can't find any food. But going around the mall, looking at the shops again and killing loads of zombies in different ways is really good fun. So I'd recommend it. If you haven't played the game before, definitely get it. So really get the remaster. It's really good to see. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And it's worth... I don't know how well it's done. I don't know if people talk... I haven't seen many people talking about it. I'm feeling it might be on Game Pass soon. I've got this weird feeling it's going to be there quite soonish, maybe in the new year. But yeah, give it a go. Oh, a light's appeared.
Richard's had an idea.
It's great.
It's
good.
It's up again now.
It's good. I like it. It's good. The darkness has hit me in the living room here, so I've had to turn my brightness up without me going. So I look like I'm in a Halloween movie. Good. And let's do one more game in. Darren, what's your second game?
So my second one is Lord of the Rings Return to Moria. So this is a survival crafting RPG, I guess is the best way to describe it. And I don't really play these games very often, but it came up and I thought I'm in the mood for one. And it was originally released on PC a little while ago, and it's made its way over to console. So basically, it takes place after the original trilogy of films, and you play as a dwarven character who you can create at the start, and Gimli from the films basically sends you off to kind of reclaim and basically repair Moria and make it habitable again after what happened in the films. And it's really cool because it does reference quite subtly at times what happened in the 3 films. So I won't kind of spoil it because it'll be really, really pleasing for fans. But you kind of stumble across things and locations from the films and go, oh, that's cool, and it's really faithful. And essentially, it's again procedurally generated. So when you start your world, as it calls it, you'll play a campaign, and there is a kind of a definitive story, but it's all jumbled up in terms of the environments and how they populate and how the enemy mobs populate, etc. And you basically can forage all sorts of different materials to build your bases at certain parts. So you'll need to build like a camp hearth, so a campfire, so you can cook, and then build a bed so you can sleep and recover. And you've got to manage 3 main stats, which is hunger, health, and your energy as well, stamina. And then you can kind of expand them as you find new materials. You'll unlock new recipes for cooking and new blueprints for buildings, and you can build all sorts of cosmetic stuff, so you can really kind of go to town on it, a bit like Animal Crossing if you want to, just in the mines of Moria rather than on a little island. So at first I was a bit like, oh, okay, and then after a few hours I really got into it because it looks brilliant. In terms of, if you're a fan of the films, instantly you'll know it. It's kind of really rich and steeped in Tolkien's lore. So you've got a journal, everything you find, every creature you come across, there's loads to read up on it. And it's one of those games where you can't rush through because the environments and the enemies will level up as you do, or you'll need to find certain materials before you can build a certain part of your camp, whether it's like a furnace to make a sword you need, or a hammer to repair a set of stairs to go on to the next area. So there are times when it's a bit frustrating because you have to go out and farm materials to progress. So I had to pull away and have a break and then go back. But all in all, I really, really enjoyed it. And I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 in the end. There were a couple of frame rate issues as well. When there was a lot going on, it did start kind of grind to a halt, and I did have a couple of texture problems where really odd. The textures started to strobe neon colours at one point, and it all kind of fell to bits, and I had to restart the game. It was one of the strangest things I'd seen. But overall, really, really good fun, and seems to be popular, which is good. So
it's one of the most popular reviews of the year so far. You haven't done anything else.
I don't know why, but thank you, everyone.
It's you, Darren. It's you. It's all you.
I'll take it.
I'm enjoying the Lord of the Rings. Oh, hello. 1 sec, someone said then. Did you hear that? Maybe it was Siri talking to me. I really enjoyed the Lord of the Rings series. I'm watching season 2 on Amazon at the moment. I'm really into it.
Yeah. Ryan's watching it. He likes it. I've not watched it because I didn't get on with season 1.
There you go. I don't think it's going to improve your stat if you like the first one. Richard, what have you got? What's your last game?
I'm back on Starfield, playing the Shattered Space DLC, and after about 80 hours in total for Starfield, I think I'm reaching the end of my enjoyment of it. The DLC starts off really well. You are on this like abandoned space station, and there's all this like blue goo around, and if you touch it, it'll teleport you and transport you around the place. So it's quite an interesting idea, and then you get to Varun Kai, which is the home world of the Varun. There's a lot of jargon going on there, and I'm very confused by it all now. The faction that worships the Great Serpent.
Yeah.
You now visit this DLC is set on their home world, which was previously inaccessible, and there's a big bad event that's happened on their home world, and you're teleported there on this space station and seen as the one person that can bring normality back to them. Even amongst themselves, there's infighting, so there's a whole faction war within a faction sort of thing going on, and it's all very almost cut and paste from previous Bethesda games, where not necessarily you need to pick a side, but you'll need to appease them all to get an end result. And the missions have you go into various dungeons, clearing them out, and then coming back and things like that, and it's
You're
all
loving
getting
it,
a bit
Richard.
samey now. No, I mean it's fun. Don't get me wrong. Starfield is still fun, but there's nothing in this DLC that hasn't been done 100 times by Bethesda themselves, and I think that's perhaps where I'm struggling a little bit by it. Had it had me traveling off to various different places, it would have been a bit more interesting. But the fact that it's all set on this one planet, and it's a nice planet to explore. I mean, it's not perhaps as pretty as it could have been had this big bad event not happened. There's some new enemies which are interesting to fight against. It seems like a very safe first bit of DLC for Starfield, and I don't think it's gonna win anyone over that was perhaps disappointed by what Starfield was. I loved it when I played it last year. Now the DLC is perhaps showing that there's not all that much to it a little bit.
I think that's a really good point. I think I can think about going to the DLC for years now after I played so many hours. I think by the end of Starfield, I was like, you get used to just the way of it playing, don't you? I think it's the same with any Bethesda game. By the end of it, you're like, I want to move quite quickly through the last couple of hours. So the idea of going back to a DLC and doing a whole lot at this point, it'd be hard. I can understand that. You start to see every little bit. You see the code.
Yeah, a little bit. You see the workings out of it.
Yeah. Good. I'm not going to talk about what my second game. We'll just go because we've got to go on. But Astrobot is a good game.
Very
enjoying
good.
that. Yeah, really inventive. If you had to go, Darren. You had to go, Darren.
Not yet, but I could hear it pinging away in the room when I was playing it.
Thank God you said Ryan there. It could just been anyone playing. You thought, what's that? Let's go through our October games. Now it's the 10th of October, so we're quite a way into October, but we missed out. So every month, Neil puts out a list of games that we should be looking out for in October on Xbox and Game Pass. And he's got 13 this time. We normally go through this list and we disparage it. We can't understand where this list has come from. Poor Neil put all this work into it. And we'll probably do the same again this month. We might be okay. We might be good. So we're going to start with the games this month. Neil, as always, probably has to put a date on these things. No, there's no dates, of course. So let's start with top of the list for October. SpongeBob SquarePants, the Patrick Star game. Anyone know anything about this?
Well, I currently have it, but I haven't started it, so I don't know much more than what's in the biog. But it looks like Patrick's the star rather than SpongeBob, which is quite interesting.
I don't know anything about SpongeBob. I've never seen one. Is this people like it?
I mean, I used to love it. I still quite like watching it every now and then, to be fair. So
okay, good. Well, that's coming out sometime in October. Darren will tell us more about it. This is what happens every month. The next one, Sword Art Online Fractured Daydream. This is a kind of I don't know what this is. Anyone know what this is? Richard, do you know what this is?
No, this is one for James if he was here.
Yeah.
I think he's got it to review. Reading about it, it looks like it's a big mishmash of previous Sword Art Online games in a brawler. I can't tell you any more than that.
None of us can. We're floundering already. We're only on number 2. It gets worse. Dragon Ball Sparking! Exclamation mark. 0. That's brilliant. It's Dragon Ball game.
Gusto.
Is that the game we played? That awful game we played all together. We had to help James out.
No, thankfully not. That was the Breakers. I know a bit about this. So I'm a fan of Dragon Ball Z, but it looked very similar to a lot of the previous releases. So, which is like a third-person fighter, which plays across different environments from the game, and there's all sort of breakable scenery and stuff. I reviewed Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which I think was the last game that was similar to this in terms of its format. I might be being unfair, but it looks great, and I'm sure it'll please fans, but I don't see much difference in the type of game it is compared to the previous releases. There's just more characters and stuff. But apparently, I think it's on Steam. There's loads and loads of people playing it. Like, it's been really well received. So,
Oh wow. Okay. There you go. I think James is reviewing that one. Next on the list, I don't know any of these games. It's great. Sky Oceans, Wings for Hire. I think Paul might be doing this one. I got this feeling. Anyone know anything about this? You're a young pirate captain. You're going up into the air. The breathtaking world. Studio Ghibli to enjoy them. We don't know anything about it. I'm just looking at taking bits from a paragraph here. Do you two know anything about it?
No.
No.
Sorry.
We'll move on. Undisputed, which is boxing and it's back. You can choose from 70 licensed fighters, 60. I'm not really good at boxing games. I haven't played a boxing game for ages. You two big boxing fans?
really?
This is good. I like this. Very good. Well, I think we're halfway through.
Hey.
Thank God for that.
Go for that. Here we go. Metaphor, Rifantanzo. This is from the Persona people. It does look good, and I wasn't a Persona fan, but it looks great, this game, and it's getting some really strong reviews from people over the board. I think Ryan might be reviewing it for us, so hopefully we'll hear about it soon. It does look good, does it? Do you like the look of this, Richard?
Yeah, it does. But again, I've never played a Persona game, despite being a big JRPG fan. This one also looks brilliant. I know that someone from the development team came out and said that whilst the menus look fancy and that they're a pain in the arse to make, I remember seeing the Persona 5 menus and thinking they look brilliant, and then this one as well. But unfortunately, I've not got it to review, so I can't say how good it actually is.
No, we won't find out soon, but it is getting some nice review. Darren, you like the look of this?
I do. I wish I had time to play it again. I've not really played the Personas, despite how good everyone says they are. But this does look really good, and it's really consistently highly reviewed, which is unusual for this type of game. So, it must be something special.
I think it's out today as we speak. So, yeah, it's good. And next on the list is another bloody Sonic. Sorry, you two. Sonic X Shadow Generations. What's this about, Richard?
It's Sonic Generations, but it's that game, but with Shadow added in now, unless I am mistaken, Darren.
No, I believe that's correct. So Sonic Generations was, as they've done so many times, I think it was back on the 360 actually, wasn't it? It was a game that mishmashed the old 2D platformers, but then brought them up to kind of current 3D life. So played around with the formula. It was really good. It was a celebration of all things Sonic, essentially, with really good kind of interactive world maps and how you got around to enter each level. But yeah, to coincide with the film, I imagine, because the fans have gone absolutely mad for Shadow, because he's not been in the films yet, but he's not been in the games for a long time, because I know he kind of made his debut in Sonic Adventure 2, I think it was. So yeah, it's good timing, certainly. So it'll probably go down well, I imagine.
Good. And Keanu Reeves is voicing him in the films, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the game, is that right?
And
one of the games.
Wow.
I don't know if I've misheard that, but I'm sure. Or he's in a trailer or something.
Okay, good.
Maybe.
Good. Well, you'll be playing that, one of you. Good. Never is the next game on the list. Never. I'm reviewing Never, and I can't say anything about it, but maybe I can do this.
Oh.
That's all I'm going to do. You won't see that if you're on the audio, but yeah, we'll talk about that next week. It's a kind of like platformy by the makers of Gris, platformy game. When you might have seen a few trailers, you've got a kind of wolf cub, and you're this kind of woman warrior going through these kind of sort of amazing kind of beautiful worlds. But yeah, we'll talk about that next time. Next one on the list, Unknown 9 Awakening. I went to a preview event for this in London in January, I think. This was originally coming out in summer, so they've pushed this back to October. I think it's October the 19th or something. It has a kind of that, I think I've talked about it on the pod before, it's like this Assassin's Creed kind of world, but with magical kind of skills. So it attacks combats in a very different way. So you'll get into a combat situation and you can choose many different ways, like teleporting over here behind someone. You can take over a sniper and then you snipe the enemies. So it has very different kind of ways of playing with a combat situation, which makes it quite interesting, as well as it being a kind of like action adventure game as well, like climbing and parallel. So it does look quite interesting. It got a couple of delays. I'd just be interested to see how it fares in October. Well, hopefully we'll see a bit more. I'm skipping through these now. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutants Unleashed. Anyone know anything about this?
I thought this had already come out, to be honest.
I did.
Maybe this has come out. Hopefully it was good. People liked it. We'll see. Life is Strange, double exposure. I think I'm looking forward to this. I'm a big Life is Strange fan. I think I've played them all. I really like the last one, True Colors. I like the way they're all kind of like a shared universe. But this Max from the first game is back, and she's a bit older, and it's following her kind of journey through. It does look good. Anyone else anyone a fan of Life is Strange?
I played the early ones and I did enjoy it. I've just kind of lost track of them a little bit. I've fallen behind.
Yeah. Richard?
Never played them. I'm sure I would like them, but yeah.
Yeah. We've got two more you'd be glad to hear. And they're two biggies. The first one is Dragon Age, the Valguard. And that's coming out at the end of the month. I know that, 29th of October. I think people are very excited about this, aren't they, from the previews? I think all three of us are really excited to play this, aren't we? There'll be a battle on the hands. I think Paul's in there as well.
It's not Paul. It's going to be one of us three. Quote me on that.
But it does look quite interesting, doesn't it? Just from the kind of previews and the kind of world building, it just looks they've done it feels like they've gone down the right track with it.
Yeah, I think
it's been a long time
the
coming.
gaming community's ready. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you can carry your saves will work from the other two games. Is that correct? I think I've heard this. So some of your saves might. Go on, Richard, sorry.
Was it that, or was this... Because I think they did it with Inquisition, where you could answer a few questions and create the world based on how the previous ones... how you'd played the previous ones. So I don't know whether it's something similar to that, because... What is it? It's probably been 10 years now since Inquisition.
I think probably a bit more. It felt like that was the last... It was straddling the last gen, the Xbox 360 and the One, yeah.
It's been 10 years since the Dragon Age game, and Until Dawn's had 2 different versions come out.
Okay, yeah. Good. And the last one on the list is Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is the big Game Pass game, which we all can play for free. I think we talked about this before. I like the Black Ops games. I quite like the campaign. That's all I ever play is in the Black Ops, and I like the look of this one. And we get to play for free on the Game Pass, so it's going to be fine. And clear your hard drives, because it's going to probably be about 180 gig.
Yeah.
Get that ready for that. But that's it. We've got through the list. Well done, everyone. There's a few more in there, maybe. Empire of Ants is in there. I think that comes out this month. That looks quite good. A little kind of beautiful looking playing as ants game. I don't know if you two know about this. No.
Yeah. Actually, it was like that photorealistic one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I do remember seeing that.
I think that's
now.
out this month. Oh. So that's good. Great. Gentlemen, before we go, what are you looking forward to? Anything at all next week, Darren?
You have put me on the spot. We have a video games market that's coming to Nottingham for the first time. So we're going to go and check that out on Sunday, and maybe go and get pumpkins and start getting a bit Halloweeny, because it's approaching. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing this weekend.
What about you, Rich? Anything?
No. I'm going nothing.
I might get Silent Hill 2 as a treat.
From game.
Yeah, maybe not from game. Just can't bear the depression. Seeing that poor guy going to they still haven't come. The warehouse haven't turned up, and the lights are getting dimmer, just like in here. Yeah. So we'll see. But thank you very much. Thank you very much, Darren. Thank you very much, Richard. And thank you very much for listening and watching. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
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 You've been listening to the official podcast of TheXboxHub.com. You'll be able to find all the notes of this show at www.TheXboxHub.com/podcast. You can also check out our social feeds on Instagram and Twitter at The Xbox Hub and search for The Xbox Hub on Facebook.